A silvery skin lies abandoned on a Scottish beach, and a legend is born. We are unmasking the Selkies, the seal people of Celtic folklore, to discover their hidden truths. By the end, you will possess a profound key to understanding your own deepest longings and hidden nature. What if these stories are not mere tales, but maps to a forgotten part of the human soul? What secret does a stolen sealskin truly hold? What part of you feels most at home in the wild, untamed depths? That abandoned sealskin is the doorway to a mystery older than stone. The Selkie, in its truest essence, is a creature of two worlds, a being forever caught in the tide between two natures. In the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic, it is a seal, sleek and powerful, a master of the hidden depths. But on land, under the light of the moon, it sheds that pelt like a heavy coat, stepping forth as a human of breathtaking, often melancholic, beauty. Picture the scene not as a cartoon, but as something achingly real. A silvery skin, glistening with salt water, lies folded upon a black rock. A few paces away, a figure dances on the sand, movements fluid and strange, utterly free yet profoundly out of place. This is the core image burned into centuries of storytelling. But to dismiss this as a simple magical transformation is to miss the entire point. The Selkie myth is not about a costume change. It is a living, breathing metaphor for a duality every single one of us understands in our bones. It speaks to the wild self versus the civilized self. The part of you that dreams of boundless freedom, of answering to no schedule, no expectation, no rule but the rhythm of your own heart. That is the seal, the creature of the deep, untamed and instinctual. And then there is the part of you that goes to work, that navigates relationships, that lives in a house with walls. That is the human on the shore, beautiful perhaps, but always glancing back at the sea. The stolen sealskin, then, becomes the most tragic symbol in folklore. It represents the capture of that wildness. When a human hides that skin, they aren't just trapping a mythical being, they are attempting to cage an entire aspect of existence. The Selkie who marries a fisherman, keeps his home, bears his children, is the picture of domesticated life. Yet a sadness clings to them, a silent yearning for the crash of waves and the pull of the current. Their home is on land, but it is never truly their home. This is the profound ache at the story's heart, the longing for a home we can sense, remember in ourselves, but can never fully possess in our daily lives. We all, in some way, are living with a hidden skin. The question is, where did you leave yours? This profound longing for a wilder home did not spring from nowhere. It was born in a very specific, breathtaking, and brutal landscape. To truly hear the Selkie's song, you must listen to the wind howling across the Orkney and Shetland Isles. You must feel the salt spray of the Outer Hebrides and stand on the rocky shores of Ireland's western coast or the remote Faroe Islands. This is the Selkie's true domain, a necklace of islands strung across the stormy North Atlantic. Here, the sea is not a view, it is the central character in every life. For centuries, these communities lived in a state of profound intimacy with the ocean. It was their highway, their pantry, the source of every meal and every trade. But it was also their greatest mystery and their most relentless danger. A calm morning could turn into a lethal gale in minutes, swallowing fathers, brothers, and sons whole. The sea gave life, and the sea took it away, without warning and without sentiment. It is from this raw, daily reality that the Selkie myth took shape. The stories are a direct reflection of that deeply ambiguous relationship. The Selkie itself is that duality made flesh, or rather, made pelt. When a Selkie is in the water, it is the sea in its benevolent form, a graceful, abundant creature. When it comes on land, it is the sea's captivating, beautiful, but ultimately sorrowful emissary. The fishermen who fell in love with Selkie women were not just enchanted by beauty. They were attempting to marry the sea itself, to bring its elusive, untamable essence into their hearth and home. And just as the sea could never be truly owned, the Selkie could never be truly kept. The myth gave a face, a heart-breakingly beautiful face, to the immense and impersonal power that governed their existence. It made the capricious nature of their world something that could be loved, mourned, and even, for a little while held. So the next time you hear a Selkie story, remember it did not come from a place of simple fantasy. It was the poetry of survival, a way for people living on the very edge of the world to explain the unexplainable force that surrounded them, a force that was both mother and monster, home and abyss. That hidden pelt is the lock and key to the entire Selkie legend. The foundational myth is heartbreaking in its simplicity. A Selkie can only walk on land by shedding its sealskin, leaving that glistening second self behind on the rocks. In that moment of transformation, they are breathtakingly vulnerable. For if a human finds that skin and hides it away, the Selkie cannot return to the sea. They are trapped, bound to the land, and utterly at the mercy of the one who holds their true nature captive. This single act of theft is the catalyst, the spark that ignites almost every story you will ever hear about these seal people. It is never an act of love, but one of possession. A lonely fisherman watching from the cliffs sees a creature of impossible grace become a human of sorrowful beauty, and in a moment of desperate longing, he takes not the person, but the skin. He believes he is securing a wife, a companion, a piece of magic for his lonely hearth. But what he has really done is cross a sacred boundary between worlds. He has attempted to domesticate the wild, to put the vast, untamable ocean itself into a chest under his bed. The stories that follow this theft are variations on a profound theme of loss. The Selkie, now in human form, may marry the fisherman. She may keep his house, bear his children, and appear the picture of a dutiful wife, but a deep, unshakable melancholy always surrounds her. She is often found staring out to sea, listening to the cries of the seals on the rocks, a part of her forever calling to the deep. She lives a life of quiet captivity, a bird with clipped wings singing of a sky it can no longer reach. This is where the myth holds up a dark mirror to our own desires. How often do we, in our own lives, try to capture and contain the things we find beautiful or wild? We try to pin down freedom, to schedule passion, to put boundaries around wonder. The stolen sealskin is a symbol for all of it, the human impulse to own what is meant to be free. And the stories are very clear about the consequences. This forced marriage is always haunted. The children born of such a union are said to have a slight webbing between their fingers or toes, a permanent physical mark of their mother's true heritage, a reminder of the world she lost. The household, while perhaps prosperous, is never truly joyful. It is built on a foundation of control and longing, a silence that hangs heavier than any storm. So the myth asks us a difficult question: where in your life have you hidden a skin, either your own or someone else's? What part of your spirit have you locked away, believing it was too wild, too untamed, too much, to be allowed its freedom? The Selkie's trapped existence on land is a warning, a poetic testament to the sorrow that comes when we sever our connection to our own deepest, most essential nature. This silent sorrow is the true heartbeat of the Selkie wife stories. She is the most haunting figure in the entire legend, a woman who performs every duty perfectly yet remains a ghost in her own home. The fisherman, in his loneliness, sees only her breathtaking beauty and believes he has won a prize. He provides a roof, food, and a family, yet he cannot comprehend the prison he has built. Her captivity is not in chains, but in kindness, in expectation, in the four walls of a cottage that can never contain the horizon. Her longing is not a dramatic wailing, but a quiet, constant presence. It is in the way she pauses while hanging laundry to watch the gulls wheel over the water. It is in the distant look in her eyes as she stirs the evening pot, her ears tuned not to the crackling fire, but to the distant roar of the surf. Her children might climb into her lap, but her fingers, tracing the slight webbing between their tiny toes, are remembering the feel of cold, deep water. This is the profound emotional core of the tale. Her heart is irrevocably divided, a continent torn in two. One half belongs to the children she bore, to the hearth she tends, to the man whose world is so small he thought he could own the sea. The other half, the larger half, is with the pod she left behind, with the freedom of the endless blue, with the self she was before the theft. She is the embodiment of forced assimilation. She has learned the language, the customs, the chores of the land world, but they are a costume she wears. Inside, she is a stranger, speaking a silent, oceanic language no one else can hear. These stories are not really about magic. They are about the invisible chains of domesticity and the quiet desperation of a soul taken from its true element. We can recognize this feeling in our own modern lives. It is the artist who becomes an accountant, dutifully balancing spreadsheets while their hands itch for a paintbrush. It is the free spirit who settles into a routine, watching the clock, their spirit feeling smaller with each passing day. The Selkie wife's gaze out to sea is a mirror. What is the ocean you are constantly looking toward? What part of your own wild, essential self did you agree to hide away in exchange for security, for acceptance, for a life that looks right on the surface? Her story tells us that when we live out of alignment with our deepest nature, a part of us will always be standing at the window, listening for a call we fear we may never answer again. Yet the longing is not only felt on land, it echoes beneath the waves as well. For the stories of Selkie husbands offer a different, equally haunting melody in this symphony of two worlds. While the captive wife embodies a sorrowful domestication, the male Selkie represents the wild's irresistible, fleeting visit. He is the stranger who walks out of the sea mist, impossibly handsome, with eyes that hold the depth of the ocean itself. He appears not as a captive, but as a visitor, drawn to the loneliness of a woman living by the shore. Perhaps she is a fisherman's widow, her heart as empty as the horizon, or a young woman who feels out of place in her own village. To her, he is the answer to a silent prayer, a romance that feels destined, otherworldly. Their love is often intense and profoundly real, but it is built on an unspoken truth everyone senses. He is a creature of passage. These unions are never meant to last a human lifetime. After a season or a year, or sometimes just until the first child is born, he will hear the call. It might be the particular phase of the moon, or the turn of the tide, or the distant song of his seal kin. And without malice, but with a certainty as deep as his nature, he will return to the sea. He leaves behind a heartbroken woman and a child who is a living bridge between the solid earth and the fluid deep. This is not a story of cruelty, but of inherent incompatibility. The Selkie husband did not have his skin stolen. He came willingly, yet his true home could never be a cottage with a locked door. His departure is the sea reclaiming its own. The tragedy here is one of fundamentally different rhythms. Her life is measured in seasons of planting and harvest, in the solidity of stone walls and warmed hearths. His life is measured in migrations, in lunar cycles, in the pull of currents that know no borders. He loved her in his way, but he loved the ocean more, because the ocean is what he is. The children of these unions carry a unique legacy. Like the children of Selkie wives, they often bear subtle marks, a certain look in the eye, an uncanny ability to swim, or a strange affinity for predicting storms. But their story is also one of paternal absence, of a father who is a legend whispered about more than a presence at the table. This speaks to a deep human anxiety about origins and belonging. These children belong to both worlds, yet are fully at home in neither, forever wondering about the part of themselves that vanished with the tide. In a sense, the Selkie husband is the embodiment of a certain kind of longing we all might recognize, the dream of the perfect, transformative lover who arrives to break the monotony of our lives, only to leave us changed and alone, staring at an emptier horizon. He is the wild inspiration that cannot be institutionalized, the passionate affair that refuses to become a routine, the creative spark that blazes brightly, then returns to the mysterious deep from whence it came. His story tells us that some forms of beauty and love are not meant to be kept, only witnessed, and that their passing, while painful, leaves a watermark on the soul that never fully fades. But the legacy of these unions does not end with a lonely gaze or a vanished lover. It is carried in the blood, written on the body, and etched into the soul of the next generation. The children born of these crossings are perhaps the most poignant figures in the entire mythos, for they are the living, breathing consequence of that impossible love between land and sea. They are the children of two worlds, and they belong completely to neither. These offspring are never portrayed as ordinary. Folklore paints them with subtle yet unmistakable marks of their dual heritage. There might be a slight webbing between the fingers or toes, a physical echo of the flippers their parent once had. Their eyes are often described as being unusually dark and deep, holding the gray-green mystery of the ocean on a stormy day. More than any physical trait, however, it is their nature that sets them apart. They possess a profound inborn melancholy, a quiet sadness that seems to have no earthly source. They are drawn to the water not just to play, but to commune, sitting for hours on the rocks, listening to a music only they can hear in the crash of the waves. They are said to have an uncanny affinity with seals, who might approach them without fear, as if recognizing a kin. This idea of the hybrid, the outsider, is the deep heartache of their story. In the tight-knit, pragmatic world of a fishing village, such a child would stand out. Their difference would be a source of whispers, of superstition, of both awe and unease. They walk among humans, but a part of them answers to a different, wilder rhythm. They are a bridge between realms, and like all bridges, they are suspended, never fully grounded on either shore. They inherit the longing of their Selkie parent, but without the means to ever truly satisfy it, for they lack the transformative skin. They are forever caught in the in-between, feeling the call of the deep in their blood, yet bound by their human form to the solidity of the land. This folklore motif connects to a very real historical human experience, especially in isolated island communities. For centuries, these places were microcosms where everyone knew your lineage, your business, your worth. A child born of an unknown father, or from a family considered strange or touched by misfortune, would carry a mark of otherness just as tangible as any webbed finger. The Selkie stories gave a mythical, majestic reason for that feeling of isolation. It wasn't that your family was poor or unlucky, it was that you were descended from magic, from the sea itself. Your sadness wasn't a flaw, it was the weight of a glorious, oceanic inheritance. The concept of magical ancestry transforms alienation into a secret nobility. It tells the outsider your difference is not a mistake, it is a sign. You are not less than, you are more than. You carry a piece of a forgotten, wondrous world within you. So when we hear of the Selkies' children, we are not just hearing a fairy tale detail. We are hearing an ancient, compassionate story crafted to explain the pain of not fitting in. It is a narrative salve for the wound of otherness. It asks us to look at the ways we, or those around us, might feel like hybrids in our own lives. Perhaps you feel split between cultures, between expectations and desires, between the person you are at work and the person you are in your dreams. That feeling of being a perpetual outsider, of loving two things that seem to hate each other, is the modern echo of the Selkie child's lament. Your melancholic longing, then, might not be a disorder to be cured, but the whisper of an older, wilder lineage calling you to remember all that you truly are. That hidden pelt is far more than a magical disguise. In the deepest, most esoteric reading of these legends, the sealskin is the Selkie's very soul. It is not a garment they wear, it is the physical manifestation of their identity, their memory, their power, and their sacred connection to the elemental world of the sea. To lose it is not merely to be trapped on land, it is to experience a catastrophic spiritual amputation. The Selkie wife in the fisherman's cottage is not just homesick, she is a soul cut in two, forced to live with only the hollow, human-shaped half of herself. The skin is her totality, her truth, her wild and knowing self, locked away in a wooden chest or buried under stones. This transforms the entire myth from a simple fairy tale into a profound allegory for the human condition. We all, in a sense, have a skin hidden somewhere. It is the part of us that knows its own nature without being told, the instinctual, intuitive, utterly authentic self that exists before the world names us, shapes us, and asks us to be practical. In various occult and mystical traditions, this concept appears again and again. Some call it the fetch, the animal spirit or double that walks beside a person, representing their vital force and connection to the natural world. Others speak of the familiar, a creature that is an external mirror of the practitioner's own inner power. In shamanic practices across the globe, there is the idea of the power animal, a spiritual ally whose essence and abilities one can merge with to gain wisdom or strength. The Selkie's skin is all of these things embodied in a single, tangible object. It is her fetch, her familiar, her power animal made literal. When she is separated from it, she is separated from her own source of magic. She becomes a ghost of herself, performing the motions of life while her essential energy languishes in darkness. This is why the search for the hidden skin is the central drama in so many stories. It is never a casual hunt for a lost item. It is a desperate, sacred quest for wholeness. The moment a Selkie's child, now grown, accidentally discovers the silky bundle hidden in the thatch of the roof, or when the Selkie wife herself, after years of silent searching, finally feels its pull from beneath the floorboards, the entire story shifts. This is the moment of spiritual reckoning. Finding the skin represents the reclamation of authentic being. It is the moment the divided self becomes one again. For us, this translates into a deeply personal question. What is your hidden skin? What part of your soul, your passion, your wild and instinctual truth, did you feel compelled to put away in order to fit in, to be safe, to be loved, or simply to survive the expectations of the world? Perhaps it was your creativity, your sensitivity, your anger, your joy, your desire for a life that looked nothing like the one you were told to build. That hidden part does not disappear. It waits like the sealskin in the attic, gathering dust but never losing its potency. The longing you feel, that quiet melancholy or restless dissatisfaction, might just be that hidden self, calling to you from its locked chest. It whispers of a wholeness you have forgotten, of a power that feels like coming home. The legend suggests that until we find that skin and integrate it, we are all, in some way, living a life of gentle captivity, staring out at a sea we are too afraid to swim in. The hidden skin is a soul trapped in a box, and the sea that calls to it is not just salt water. From the perspective of depth psychology, that vast, cold, teeming North Atlantic becomes a perfect symbol for the unconscious mind itself. Think of your own mind not as a tidy library, but as an ocean. The surface, the part you navigate daily, is your conscious awareness. It's logical, it makes lists, it follows social rules. But beneath that sunlit surface lies the deep, a realm of immense, mysterious power. Here dwell your forgotten memories, your primal instincts, your wildest dreams, and your most profound creativity. This is the unconscious, dark, fluid, and utterly essential to who you are. The Selkie in this psychological reading is an archetype rising from those depths. Specifically, it embodies what Carl Jung called the anima or animus, the suppressed inner feminine or masculine aspect that holds our capacity for intuition, emotion, connection, and instinct. For a fisherman living a harsh, pragmatic life dictated by weather and survival, his anima, his inner feminine, would be profoundly repressed. Then, one evening, he sees her. A creature of breathtaking beauty and sorrow emerges from the waves. She is everything his conscious life is not: fluid, emotional, mysterious, and deeply connected to the natural world. She is his own unconscious feminine made manifest. His reaction, however, is not one of integration, but of possession. He does not seek to understand her, to welcome her wisdom into his life. He hides her skin. In psychological terms, this is the ego, the conscious I, attempting to capture and control a powerful element of the unconscious. He wants to own the magic, to keep the beauty and mystery as a domesticated pet within the walls of his conscious identity. But the unconscious cannot be owned. It can only be related to. The resulting marriage is the picture of a psyche in conflict. The conscious ego goes about its daily business, providing structure and order, the roof over the head. The captured anima, the Selkie wife, tends to the home representing the inner emotional life, but she is listless and sad. She stares out to sea because her true home, her power, is locked away. The ego has the anima trapped, but it cannot make her happy, and therefore it cannot itself be whole. This internal split creates that signature Selkie melancholy, a life that functions but does not sing. The children of this union, then, are the new potentials, the creative offspring born from this troubled marriage between the conscious and unconscious. They are gifted, sensitive, but marked by a sadness they cannot name, because they are born from a relationship of control, not cooperation. So, what does integration look like in this legend? It is the moment of finding the skin. It is when the conscious mind, often through a spark of intuition or a crisis, finally goes looking for what it hid. It opens the chest, pulls the pelt from the rafters, and presents it not as a tool for further control, but as a rightful belonging. In that act of restoration, the ego acknowledges the sovereignty of the deep self. It says, "I cannot keep you. You are not mine to own. You are my other half, and I must let you be what you are." The Selkie's return to the sea is not an abandonment in this reading, but a necessary homecoming that re-establishes a healthy connection. The conscious mind does not drown. It learns to visit the shore. It listens for the songs from the deep. It allows the wisdom of the anima to flow into its life without trying to bottle it. The fisherman, if he is wise, does not get a wife who stays, but gains a relationship with the sea itself. He becomes a man who understands the tides, both in the water and within himself. Your own hidden skin, that wild, creative, instinctual part you feel you had to lock away, is your personal Selkie. Your conscious mind, shaped by society and survival, likely told it was too much, too messy, too impractical. So you hid it, but the longing never stops, because wholeness demands its return. The journey is not about throwing your life away to live in the ocean, but about finding that skin, acknowledging it, and letting that deep, wild wisdom breathe into your everyday world. It is the difference between a life of quiet captivity and a life lived in dialogue with your own vast, inner sea. The profound awe surrounding the Selkie was not confined to stories by the fire. It spilled directly into the practical magic of daily survival. For the people who shared these coasts, the seal folk were not distant legends, but potent forces woven into the very fabric of luck, weather, and health. To encounter a Selkie was to brush against a living omen. A Selkie seen swimming peacefully near the shore might foretell a bountiful catch, a blessing from the sea itself. But a Selkie spotted riding the crest of a storm wave, or heard crying on the rocks, was a dire warning of tempests to come, a signal to pull the boats high above the tide line. This was not superstition in a dismissive sense. It was a form of ecological observation rendered into poetry. The seals, sensitive to changes in atmospheric pressure, would indeed behave differently before a storm. The folk wisdom simply gave that behavior a face, a name, and a story, making the natural world intelligible and resonant. This sacred status translated into a complex web of folk magic and strict taboo. Certain practices believe that parts of the seal held potent, transitional magic. There are whispers in the old records of seal oil or fat being used in folk remedies, particularly for ailments of the joints or the lungs, as if the creature's fluid mastery between elements could grant flexibility or ease breathing. A piece of sealskin might be carried as a charm for protection during a sea voyage, a literal piece of the Selkie's domain offering safe passage through it. But these practices walked a razor's edge, for to harm a seal was to invite catastrophic retribution. The belief was absolute: if you killed a seal, you might have killed a Selkie's kin, or the Selkie itself. The curse that would follow was not a vague misfortune, but a targeted generational tragedy. Your boat would founder, your nets would forever come up empty, your family line would be haunted by ill health and strange accidents. The sea itself would seem to turn against you. This created a powerful ethical framework born of fear and reverence. It enforced a conservation principle long before the word existed. The seal was not just an animal, it was a potential person, a sacred neighbor. To hunt it carelessly was to risk everything. This intertwining of the mythical and the mundane reveals the true function of the Selkie in the community's mind. They were the spiritual guardians of the ecosystem, the reason you thought twice before taking more than you needed from the sea. Their imagined curse was the law of the land and of the water, ensuring a respectful balance with the powerful, animating force that surrounded them. The magic, then, was deeply practical. It was a system for living wisely in a world that was alive, aware, and demanded reciprocity. The most profound magic of the Selkie is not found in her skin, but in her sorrow. Across many variations of the tale, a hauntingly beautiful detail emerges. When a captive Selkie weeps, her tears do not vanish into the earth. They fall as pearls. This is not a random flourish of fantasy, but a piece of deep, intentional symbolism, a key to understanding the entire legend through the lens of spiritual alchemy. To grasp its meaning, you must first understand the true nature of a pearl. It begins not with beauty, but with pain. A grain of sand, a sharp piece of grit, an unwelcome intrusion, finds its way inside the shell of an oyster. This irritant, this piece of rough reality, cannot be expelled, so the oyster does the only thing it can. It begins to secrete a luminous, soothing substance, layer upon lustrous layer, slowly and patiently coating the source of its discomfort. Over time, through a persistent, organic process, the irritant is not removed, but transformed. The wound becomes a wonder, the source of pain becomes a source of radiant value. This is the exact process mirrored in the Selkie's captivity. The stolen skin is her grain of sand. It is the sharp, unbearable reality of her separation, the constant, aching irritation of being trapped in a form and a life that is not her own. Her profound melancholy, her tears, are the luminous secretion of her spirit. They are the evidence of her soul working on that pain, and what is produced? Pearls, objects of timeless beauty, value, and wisdom. The legend tells us that her sorrow is not wasted, it is alchemized. This is a core occult principle, the idea of transmutation. The base metal of suffering, through the fire of conscious endurance, can be turned into the gold of spiritual insight. The Selkie's forced life on land, with all its limitations and loneliness, becomes the very pressure that creates something precious within her. She gains a depth of understanding, a compassion, a patience that her free-swimming kin in the open ocean may never know. Her tears turned pearls are the physical proof of this inner alchemy. They are the treasures born of her sacrifice, the beauty forged in the crucible of her longing. This changes how we view her entire story. She is not merely a victim pining for escape. She is an alchemist of the heart, transforming the leaden weight of her captivity into something luminous. For us, this symbol is incredibly potent. It reframes our own hidden pains, our own grains of sand. That part of you that feels trapped, the irritation of a dream deferred, the loneliness of a path not understood, these are not signs of failure. They are the potential seeds of pearls. The alchemical process asks, what are you building around your pain? Are you merely cursing the grit, or are you, perhaps without even realizing it, beginning to coat it with layers of resilience, of empathy, of a deeper, quieter strength? The pearl does not form overnight. It requires time and the persistent, gentle application of self. The Selkie's tears becoming pearls suggest that our deepest sorrows, if we allow them to be felt and honored, can become the most valuable parts of our spirit. They become the wisdom we offer, the compassion we extend, the unique beauty that only a soul shaped by deep feeling can possess. Your hidden skin may cause you to weep, but those very tears hold the secret to your own priceless transformation. While the Selkie weeps her pearls in the cold Atlantic, similar cries echo across the world's shorelines. The human fascination with beings who bridge the human and aquatic realms is a global phenomenon, yet each culture molds this archetype to reflect its own deepest fears, values, and relationship with the water. Placing the Selkie beside her mythological cousins reveals not just similarities, but what makes her story uniquely poignant. Take the Japanese Ningyo, often translated as mermaid. This creature is typically an omen, a being whose appearance portends war or calamity. Its flesh is said to grant immortality if eaten, but catching one brings fierce storms and misfortune upon the fisherman's village. The Ningyo is a symbol of dangerous, taboo knowledge, a prize that curses those who seek to possess it. Contrast this with the Selkie. While harming a seal risks a curse, the Selkie herself is not inherently a harbinger of doom. Her danger lies only in what is done to her in the theft of her skin. She's not a walking calamity, but a captive soul. Then there is the Slavic Rusalka. This water spirit is often the ghost of a young woman who died a violent or untimely death, frequently by drowning. She is depicted as beautiful, with long, flowing hair, but she is vengeful and seductive, luring men to a watery grave out of malice or loneliness. Her song is a death knell. The Selkie's song, however, is one of pure longing for home, not a weaponized lure. Her tragedy is passive, born of capture, not active vengeance. Even the Norse Hafru, or sea maid, shares a closer resemblance, yet carries a different weight. She is known to marry mortal men and sometimes bear children, but these stories often focus on the husband's journey to her underwater kingdom, a realm of wonder and wealth. The tension is about a human entering the magical world, not a magical being trapped in the human one. The Selkie narrative flips this. The focus is relentlessly on her displacement, her captivity on land. What sets the Selkie apart, then, is a specific trinity of traits. First, the physical mechanism of transformation is absolutely central and uniquely tangible. The skin is not just a magical ability, it is a physical object that can be found, stolen, and hidden. This makes her plight heartbreakingly concrete. Second, her nature is fundamentally benign. She is not seeking to harm humans. She is simply living her life when her freedom is taken. The conflict arises from human action, not from her inherent malevolence. And third, her dominant emotional signature is not terror, lust, or avarice, but a profound, enduring melancholy. This deep, romantic sorrow is the Selkie's true hallmark. Where the Rusalka embodies vengeful rage and the Ningyo represents ominous fate, the Selkie symbolizes pure, aching longing for a lost wholeness. She is the archetype of the homesick soul. This global comparison sharpens the Selkie's unique message. She tells us that the greatest tragedy is not being monstrous, but being severed from your true nature. Her story is not about the danger the deep poses to us, but about the danger we pose to the deep, both in the world and within ourselves. In a pantheon of deadly sirens and ominous omens, the Selkie stands as a quiet testament to the price of stolen freedom and the beautiful, unbearable sorrow of a divided heart. Pearls of sorrow fall into the sea, but the water that receives them has known a darker, more visceral stain. To fully understand the weight of these legends, we must confront the stark reality that birthed them, a reality not of magic, but of survival stained with blood. For centuries, the communities that told Selkie stories also depended on the seal hunt. This was not sport, it was necessity. On these remote, wind-scoured islands, every part of an animal was used. Seal blubber provided oil for lamps to push back the endless winter dark. The tough, waterproof hides made essential clothing and footwear. The meat could mean the difference between starvation and survival during a lean season. The hunt was a brutal, intimate fact of life. A fisherman would row his boat through the icy swells, not for cod or herring, but for the large, intelligent eyes of a seal resting on a skerry. The kill was close, personal, and messy. And afterwards, returning to a cottage warmed by seal oil lamps, a profound cognitive dissonance must have settled in. How does a person reconcile the necessity of an act with the haunting intelligence seen in the victim's eyes? This is where folklore performs one of its most profound psychological functions. The legend of the seal people did not arise in a vacuum of pure imagination. It likely grew from a deep, communal need to process this moral and emotional conflict. If the seal you just killed might have been a Selkie, a person under a skin, then the act of hunting is transformed. It is no longer just the culling of an animal for resources. It becomes a tragic, potentially cursed encounter with a fellow sentient being. This anthropomorphism, this granting of human qualities to the prey, is a powerful buffer for the human psyche. It creates a story that allows for both the necessity of the kill and the respect for the killed. The guilt is not erased, but it is ritualized, wrapped in a narrative that acknowledges the gravity of the act. Consider the strict taboos we touched upon earlier. The belief that harming a seal would bring a generational curse upon your family and your boat. These were not arbitrary superstitions. They were a form of ecological and ethical law encoded in myth. By making the seal a potential person, the culture built in a powerful deterrent against overhunting, against cruelty, against taking life without solemnity. The fear of the Selkies' retaliation enforced a kind of respect that pure pragmatism might not have sustained. In this light, the Selkie wife in the fisherman's cottage takes on another layer of meaning. She becomes a permanent, living reminder of the cost of survival. Her sorrow in the home is the sorrow of the sea itself, brought indoors, the fisherman who lives with her lives with the conscience of his actions, a daily, beautiful penance for the violence required to stay alive. Her eventual recovery of her skin and return to the sea can be seen as a symbolic release, a hope for forgiveness, or an acknowledgement that some debts to the natural world can never be fully repaid, only mourned. So the next time you hear a Selkie story, listen for the echo of the hunt beneath the melody of magic. It is a story born from the hands that held the harpoon and the hearts that sought to sanctify the sacrifice. The legend asks us a difficult, universal question. How do we live with the consequences of our own survival? How do we honor the life we must take to sustain our own? The Selkie myth provided an answer, not by justifying the violence, but by dignifying the victim, transforming a source of guilt into a story of sacred connection and eternal, poetic remorse. That sorrow, born of the hunt and the hidden skin, found its truest expression not in words, but in sound. Over the crashing waves on a still night, you might hear it, a melody both beautiful and unbearably sad, carrying further than any human voice should. This is the Selkie's song, and it is far more than a pretty detail in the legend. It is the very voice of her soul's condition. In the Celtic world, from which these stories spring, there is a profound tradition of vocal lament known as keening. This was not mere crying, but a formal melodic expression of grief, often performed by women at wakes and funerals. It was a raw, soaring, wordless music that gave shape to the unspeakable pain of loss. The Selkie's song is a form of oceanic keening. It is her lament for her stolen skin, for her lost pod, for the deep, blue freedom she can no longer reach. Every note is a tear turned to sound, a pearl of sorrow given voice. This connects her directly to other mythic singers of the sea, like the sirens of Greek myth, whose songs lured sailors to their doom. But the Selkie's call is different. It is not a weapon of seduction or a trap. It is an involuntary cry of the heart. It is the sound of the wild self, singing of its captivity. When a human hears it, shivering on the cliff path, they are not being lured to destruction. They are overhearing a private tragedy. The pull they feel is the resonance of their own hidden longing. The song acts as a mirror. If you hear it and feel an ache to walk into the waves, it is not the Selkie calling you, but your own submerged self, recognizing its kin. The song reveals a profound truth, that the call of the wild is not a shout of aggression, but a mournful ballad of remembrance. It is the forgotten home, singing to the part of you that remembers the address. In many stories, this song also serves as a beacon, a way for lost things to find each other. A Selkie husband might sing from the waves to the child he left on the shore, a haunting lullaby that explains nothing but conveys everything. A captive Selkie wife might hum an old, watery tune while she works, and one day, her children, now grown, will hear the same melody from a seal on the rocks, solving the lifelong mystery of their mother's sadness. The song is a thread of continuity, a silver cord that ties the divided self back to its source, no matter how far apart they are. In this way, the Selkie's lament becomes a powerful sonic symbol. It represents the part of our spirit that refuses to be completely silenced. No matter how well we build our lives on land, it is the creative urge that hums in the background while you do your taxes. It is the sudden, piercing memory of a dream you had years ago, arriving with the clarity of a melody. It is that inexplicable pang you feel when you see geese flying south or hear the ocean from a distance. That pang is your inner Selkie, singing her song of the deep. She is reminding you of what you are, beneath the layers of responsibility and identity. Her music asks the most compelling question of all. If your own hidden self began to sing its lament, what would it sound like? And more importantly, would you have the courage to listen? That song of longing did not fade with the peat smoke of ancient cottages. It found a new home in the pages of books and the light of cinema screens, proving the Selkies myth is not a relic, but a living, evolving story. Modern storytellers have reached for the old symbols, the skin and the sea, and discovered they are perfect vessels for exploring contemporary anxieties. Take Sally Magnusson's novel, The Seal Woman's Gift. Here, the Selkie narrative becomes a profound exploration of female silence and the slow, painful recovery of voice. The captive wife is not just pining for the ocean. She is a woman whose entire history, language, and sense of self have been stripped away, much like the historical Icelandic women brought to foreign shores. Her journey back to her skin is a journey back to her own story, her own power. It uses the myth to talk about autonomy in a way that resonates deeply today, framing the stolen skin as a metaphor for any identity taken by force or circumstance. Then there is the beautiful, haunting film The Secret of Roan-Inish. This adaptation grounds the magic in the gritty, post-war reality of an Irish family displaced from their island home. The Selkie child in the story, the little girl with dark, knowing eyes, becomes a symbol of the family's own severed connection to their land and heritage. The yearning is not just for the sea, but for a lost way of life, for roots that have been washed away by the tides of modernity and economics. Here, the myth speaks to the pain of diaspora, the feeling of being unmoored from your ancestral place. Environmental themes also rise naturally from these waves. Modern retellings often emphasize the Selkie's role as a guardian of the marine world. Her captivity mirrors the damage humans inflict on the oceans, her sorrow reflecting the sickness of polluted waters and dwindling seal populations. The act of returning the skin becomes an act of ecological restitution, a symbolic apology to the natural world we have tried to own and ruin. Perhaps one of the most poignant modern readings is through the lens of mental health. The Selkie's dual existence, her profound melancholy on land, her feeling of being an imposter in a human skin, all echo the experiences of depression, dissociation, and anxiety. The hidden skin represents a lost sense of authentic self, buried under the demands of daily life. The relentless call of the sea mirrors the intrusive pull of a sadness that has no clear, earthly source. In this light, the myth offers not a fantastical escape, but a powerful metaphor for the journey toward integration and healing, for finding the part of yourself you had to hide away to survive. What is remarkable is how the core symbols hold firm. The skin is still the soul. The sea is still the unconscious, the wild, the true home. The captivity is still a state of disconnection. These elements are timeless because they are fundamental to the human experience. Modern writers simply dress the old bones in new clothes, letting the Selkie speak about the isolation of the digital age, the yearning for authenticity in a curated world, the global grief for a planet in peril. Her story remains a perfect map for any kind of longing, proving that the most ancient myths often hold the clearest mirrors to our modern selves. Her mournful song is a lament for a lost kingdom, a kingdom far older than any human throne. To hear it fully, we must listen through an ancient ear, one that recognizes the Selkie not merely as a magical creature, but as a living aspect of the divine feminine herself. In the oldest layers of these stories, the female Selkie is a goddess in exile. She is a being of the lunar tides, her very biology synced to the pull of the moon, just as the ocean is. Her domain is the deep, the subconscious, the realm of intuition, emotion, and the raw, creative mystery of life itself. She does not think in straight lines or build empires of stone. She moves in cycles, in currents, in the ebb and flow of feeling. When she dances on the shore under the moonlight, she is not just a beautiful woman. She is a manifestation of that primal, feminine power in its purest, most untamed state. Her sealskin is her sovereignty. It is the symbol of her complete and autonomous connection to this deep, knowing source. And so, the act of stealing that skin becomes more than a personal tragedy. It becomes a mythic metaphor for a cultural one. The fisherman who hides the pelt is not just a lonely man. He represents the rising patriarchal order, the worldview that values possession over partnership, control over communion, the solid land over the fluid sea. He takes the goddess of the deep and tries to make her a housewife. He attempts to force the wild, intuitive, cyclical feminine into a linear, logical, domesticated role. Her captivity in his cottage is a perfect picture of the suppression of feminine wisdom. She is there, she tends the hearth, she bears the children, she performs all the expected duties, but her power is locked in a chest. Her connection to the lunar rhythms, to the deep knowing of the waters, is severed. She becomes a muted version of herself, her magic reduced to melancholy, her prophecies to silent stares out the window. This is the sorrow that has echoed through centuries, the grief of a whole mode of being pushed to the margins, told its ways are not valid, not practical, not real. The home she keeps may run smoothly, but it is a place devoid of her true essence, a symbol of a world operating with only half of its sacred energy. Yet the story does not end there. Her escape, the moment she finds her hidden skin and returns to the sea, is one of the most powerful images of reclamation in all of folklore. This is not a retreat, it is a restoration. It is the divine feminine reclaiming her own nature, slipping back into her element, and returning to her rightful place as a sovereign force in the cosmos. She does not destroy the fisherman's world in vengeance, she simply leaves it, because it was never large enough to contain her. The sea she returns to is the great womb of life, the source of all things, the chaotic, creative, nurturing, and terrifying feminine principle that cannot be owned or tamed. Her journey back is a promise written in salt water and moonlight, that this deep wisdom can be suppressed, hidden, even forgotten for a time, but it can never be destroyed. It waits, and when the conditions are right, when the chest is finally opened, it flows back to its source with the inevitability of the tide. So when you feel that pull, that deep, wordless longing for something more fluid and true, you are not just missing an old hobby or a forgotten dream. You might be hearing the call of your own inner Selkie, your own connection to that intuitive, cyclical, deeply feminine power that exists within everyone, regardless of gender. It is the part of you that knows without being told, that creates without a blueprint, that feels the shifting tides in a room or in your own spirit. Its captivity is the source of that pervasive modern ache, the feeling that you are living a life that looks right but does not feel true. And its reclamation is the most sacred journey you can undertake, not to abandon your life on land, but to finally integrate the wild, wise sea within. This ancient promise of reclamation is not locked in the past, it lives in the present moment, waiting for you to enact it. The Selkie myth offers more than a story to hear, it provides a blueprint for a personal ritual of return, a way to use its symbols to heal your own hidden grief and recover your wild joy. Think of this not as a theatrical performance, but as a focused conversation with your deepest self, using the language of sea and stone. To begin, you must first identify your own hidden skin. Find a quiet space, perhaps with the sound of waves playing softly from a speaker, or simply the memory of the ocean in your mind. Sit comfortably and let your breathing slow, matching the rhythm of the tide, in and out. Now ask yourself with gentle curiosity, not judgment, what part of me did I feel I had to put away? When did I decide that my wildness, my sensitivity, my boundless creativity, or my untamed laughter was too much for the world, or for my own safety? The answer might not come as a single word. It may arrive as a memory, a forgotten passion, a recurring dream, or simply a feeling of tightness in your chest when you think of a path not taken. That sensation, that ghost of a memory, is the edge of your hidden pelt. You are not trying to solve it in this moment, only to acknowledge its existence, to say, I see you there. Once you have a sense of that concealed self, you can create a simple, physical altar to focus this intention. Gather a bowl of sea water, or water mixed with sea salt. Find a smooth, gray stone from a riverbed or your garden, something solid and cool to the touch. The water represents the Selkie's element, the fluid realm of emotion, intuition, and the unconscious. The stone represents the land, the solid reality of your daily life, and also the hiding place where your skin was concealed. Place them before you. Hold the stone in your hands and speak to it, aloud or in your heart. Tell it what you have hidden. Name the sorrow, the compromise, the part of you that feels captive. Then, with intention, place the stone into the bowl of salt water. Watch as it sinks. This act is a powerful symbolic reversal. You are not hiding your wildness in the earth. You are submerging your solid, burdensome secret into the healing, accepting embrace of the deep. You are returning your grief to the waters from which all life comes, allowing those ancient salts to cleanse and soften its hard edges. As the stone rests there, imagine your hidden self, your inner Selkie, finally able to move freely in that supportive element. What does she do? Does she dance? Does she rest? Does she sing a song of relief? Sit with this image for a few moments, breathing in the sense of release. When you feel ready, you can remove the stone, now cleansed and charged with a new purpose, and keep it as a talisman of your commitment to wholeness. Sprinkle the salt water on your wrists or forehead, anointing yourself with the memory of your own sovereignty. This is not a one-time magic that solves everything. It is a beginning, a ritualized first step in an ongoing conversation. Each time you feel that familiar ache of captivity, you can return to this practice. You can listen to the sound of real waves, letting their endless rhythm remind you that no feeling is final, that every tide retreats and returns. The goal is not to abandon your life on land, but to end the war between your shore and your sea. It is to visit that inner ocean regularly, to let its wisdom inform your choices, to allow your wild joy to surface in your human world in ways that feel safe and true. Your hidden skin may never be something you wear openly in the marketplace, but by knowing where it is and visiting it often, you transform your life from a sentence of captivity into a dialogue with the deep. You become the fisherman who no longer needs to steal a wife from the waves, because you have learned to respect the sea, to listen to its songs, and to find your own freedom in the balance between the rock and the swell. The fisherman's lonely act of theft is not a romantic beginning, but a profound violation. At its core, every Selkie story is a clear and uncompromising lesson about consent. The Selkie never agrees to stay on land. Her presence in the fisherman's home is not a choice, it is a consequence. Her consent is stolen along with her skin, making their entire marriage a monument to coercion. The relationship, no matter how comfortable or prosperous it may appear, is built on a foundation of control, not mutual desire. This transforms the legend from a simple fantasy into a powerful folk parable, one that speaks directly to the emptiness of any bond founded on possession rather than partnership. Think of the dynamic not as love, but as kidnapping dressed in domesticity. The fisherman provides food, shelter, and family, believing these offerings constitute a fair exchange for her presence. But gifts given to a captive are not gifts at all. They are the furnishings of a prison. Her compliance in keeping house is not affection. It is the survival strategy of a being stripped of her power, navigating a foreign world with no means of escape. The story is brutally honest about the emotional reality of such a union. There is no true intimacy, only a deep, unbridgeable loneliness shared under one roof. His loneliness sought to own another being to fill its void, and her loneliness is the void created by that ownership. They live in parallel sorrow, never truly meeting, because one holds the key to the other's cage. This is why the stories so often end in escape, not reconciliation. The narrative justice is absolute. Once the Selkie finds her hidden skin, she leaves. There is rarely a dramatic farewell or a negotiation. She returns to the sea because she can, because her true self demands it. The fisherman is left with a silent cottage and the consequences of his original sin, the understanding that what he thought he had built was an illusion. It was a life sustained by hiding the truth of another's nature. This ending serves as the tale's moral heartbeat. It declares that relationships born from theft cannot endure, that love cannot grow where freedom is absent. The parable extends far beyond the mythical. It asks us to examine our own interactions. Where do we, perhaps unconsciously, try to hold someone's skin? It might not be as literal as hiding a pelt, but it can be the pressure to change a partner's fundamental nature, the expectation that a friend always conforms to our needs, or the desire to control a child's path to soothe our own anxieties. Any connection where we value the other person primarily for how they fit into our world, rather than honoring the sovereignty of their own being, echoes the fisherman's mistake. The Selkie's inevitable return to the sea is a testament to the indestructible core of self. It tells us that the soul's longing for authenticity is a force as powerful as the tide. You might contain it for a season, but you cannot stop it forever. The ultimate ethical lesson is one of respect for boundaries, both in others and in ourselves. True connection requires two whole beings choosing to meet at the shore, each free to dive back into their own depths at any time. Anything less is just a beautiful captivity, waiting for the day the hidden skin is found. That silent cottage left behind by the Selkie exists in a landscape teeming with other invisible neighbors. To truly understand her place in the tapestry of myth, we must look beyond the shoreline and into the rolling hills and misty glens, to the domain of the Scottish Fae. The world of fairy lore is vast and intricately structured, populated by beings as diverse as the land itself, from helpful brownies to terrifying kelpies. So where do our seal people fit within this hidden kingdom? Are Selkies considered Fae at all? The answer is a fascinating glimpse into the boundaries of folklore. At first glance, the connections are strong. Like many fairy beings, Selkies exist in a liminal space, a threshold between two worlds. They are neither fully animal nor fully human, but something beautifully in between, just as many Fae are neither fully of this world nor the next. They operate under a strict, non-negotiable rule, the law of the skin, which is a very fairy-like concept. The Fae are famously bound by their own codes of conduct, by promises that must be kept and taboos that must never be broken. A Selkie's entire existence hinges on one such absolute rule. Furthermore, their unions with humans produce supernatural offspring, children marked by the otherworld, which is a classic trope in fairy lore, from changelings to gifted half-blood heirs. These parallels are undeniable, yet, to simply label them as fairies feels incomplete, almost dismissive of their unique nature. The Scottish fairy realm is famously divided into two overarching courts, the Seelie and the Unseelie. The Seelie court is often described as the benevolent or noble Fae. They might play tricks, but they are generally seen as helpful to humans, or at least neutral unless provoked. The Unseelie court, in stark contrast, encompasses the outright malevolent and dangerous beings, those who would lead travelers astray into bogs, sicken cattle, or steal children with malicious intent. So if we force the Selkie into this binary, which court would claim her? She is not benevolent in the way a Seelie brownie might secretly mend your fishing nets. Her presence in a human home brings a pervasive sorrow, an unintended curse that stems from her captivity, but she is also not malevolent like an Unseelie creature. She does not seek to harm, she does not lure sailors to drown, she does not act out of spite or cruelty. Her sadness is passive, a consequence, not a weapon. This is why the Selkie ultimately resists such easy categorization. She operates outside the politics of the fairy courts. Her allegiance is not to a queen of the Shea or a king of the mountain. Her loyalty is to the sea itself, to the lunar pole, to the pod she calls family. She is governed not by the whims of fairy nobility, but by the older, more immutable laws of nature and longing. Her magic is elemental, born of salt and wave and the deep, biological truth of transformation. While a fairy might be bound by a spoken promise or a gift of bread and milk, the Selkie is bound by her very skin, a physical tether to her origin that feels more primal, more biological, than the contractual magic of the Fae. Think of it this way. The fairy courts represent a supernatural society, with its own hierarchies, intrigues, and relationships to humanity. The Selkie represents a different order entirely, the spirit of a wild, specific place, the soul of the ocean given a shape that can, for a time, walk on land. She is less a citizen of a hidden kingdom and more a personification of the coastline's own melancholic heart. She belongs to the border, the liminal space where land and sea meet, and her rules are the rules of that border, tides and transformations, not the edicts of a court. This neutrality is her power and her tragedy. It means her story is not about choosing sides in a hidden war, but about the universal ache of displacement. A fairy might steal a human child and replace it with a changeling as part of a scheme or a punishment. A Selkie has a child with a human because she is trapped, and that child becomes a living testament to a love that was built on a foundation of loss. The magic is deeply personal, not political. So, while she shares the Fae's otherworldliness and rule-bound nature, the Selkie ultimately swims in a different current. She is a myth of the margins, a creature whose entire story explores what happens when the untamable wild is forced into a domestic shape. That narrative doesn't need the framework of fairy courts to give it weight. Its power comes from the simpler, more profound conflict between freedom and captivity, between the wild self and the civilized self, a battle that rages not in some glittering underground hall, but in the quiet corners of every human heart that has ever felt the call of a deeper, more authentic home. The cottage feels larger after she is gone, and colder, as if the sea mist has settled permanently in the corners. The fisherman returns from checking his nets to a silence so profound it rings in his ears. The hearth she tended is just a pile of cold ash. The chair where she would sit, staring at the horizon, is empty. Her absence is not a clean break, but a ghost limb, a space in the world that still holds her shape. He may have known in some buried part of his soul that this day would come, but knowledge does nothing to soften the blow. His heartbreak is complex, woven from genuine love, profound guilt, and the shattering realization that he was never loved as a husband, but tolerated as a jailer. The life he built was a beautiful illusion, a sandcastle at high tide. Now the sea has reclaimed its own, and he is left with only the damp, crumbling remains and the echo of a song he never truly understood. Out on the rocks, the children watch the water. They inherited her eyes, that deep, liquid gray, and now they know why. The revelation of the hidden skin explains everything, the unspoken sadness that draped their mother like a shawl, their own strange pull toward the waves, the subtle webbing between their own fingers. They are the legacy of that impossible union, forever caught between the solid earth of their father's world and the calling deep of their mother's. They are not wholly of either, and this dual inheritance is a haunting. They might grow to resent the land for its rigidity, or fear the sea for its power to take her away. Every seal they see barking on the skerry is a question mark. Is that her? Is she watching? Does she sing the old lullabies to her true kin beneath the waves? That barking is no longer just an animal sound. It is a language they are half tuned to, a message they can almost, but never quite, decipher. This lingering connection is the story's final, poignant truth. An encounter with the numinous, with a being from the deep mythic world, is not a neat adventure with a clear end. It leaves a permanent mark, a spiritual scar that is also a gift. The family is forever changed. The ordinary world of fishing, mending nets, and village gossip can no longer contain them, for they have seen the seam between realities part, and watched a soul slip back through. They know magic is real, not as a pretty story, but as a force that breaks hearts and rewrites destinies. This is the price of transcending ordinary life, the cost of touching the wild, sacred edge of things. You cannot return to a simple, unquestioning existence. Your vision is forever altered. You will always hear the sea in a shell and wonder if it is calling your name. The empty space at the hearth, the child's webbed finger, the seal's cry on a foggy night. These are not punishments, but relics. They are proof that something immense and beautiful passed through, leaving the architecture of a mundane life forever rearranged, filled with echoes and a longing for a home that was, for a moment, almost within reach. That empty space at the hearth is filled with a question that haunts our modern minds more than any ghost. Could Selkies be real, not in the literal sense of a zoologist's field guide, but real in the way that matters to the human spirit, real as a presence felt on a lonely shore? From a paranormal investigator's lens, we must first set aside the idea of a biological creature and consider a more fluid possibility. Perhaps the Selkie is not an animal that becomes a person, but a type of elemental spirit, a consciousness formed from the land and sea itself. In many esoteric traditions, elementals are thought to be the living intelligence of a natural force, like the genius of a forest or the soul of a river. A Selkie, then, could be the localized spirit of a particular stretch of coastline, a bay or a tidal skerry, born from the collective memory of its storms, its calms, and its sacrifices. This entity wouldn't have a single physical body, but could draw energy from the environment and the beliefs of those who live there, manifesting in the form the local folklore has given it, the seal person. This explains why the stories are so geographically specific and persistent. The spirit isn't visiting, it is the place, expressing its ancient, melancholic character through the only language humans seem to understand, story and symbol. Then there is the more psychological, yet equally paranormal, interpretation. Could a Selkie sighting be a form of psychic projection, a thought form so powerful it briefly flickers into visible reality? Human emotion is a potent force, especially grief and longing concentrated over centuries in isolated communities. The collective trauma of lost fishermen, the yearning of those left behind staring at the merciless sea, the guilt of the hunt, all of this psychic energy has to go somewhere. Parapsychology suggests that powerful, repeated emotional patterns can imprint on a location, creating a kind of psychic recording, a haunting. But what if it goes further? What if that concentrated longing doesn't just replay like a ghostly tape, but actively shapes itself? It coalesces into the perfect form to express that specific sorrow, a beautiful, trapped being from the waves. When a lonely person walks that cliff path, steeped in their own personal grief, their emotional state might resonate with that stored energy, tuning into it like a radio. What they see is not a flesh and blood seal woman, but a momentary, shared hallucination, a manifestation of the landscape's own broken heart meeting their own. It feels utterly real because it is made from real feeling, just not from physical matter. This leads us to the compelling concept of folk memory. This isn't about remembering historical facts, but about a deeper, almost genetic inheritance of place. Certain landscapes hold stories in their stones and their water. A valley where a great battle was fought might forever feel tense or sorrowful. A spring considered sacred for millennia might still radiate a sense of peace. For the Scottish and Irish coasts, the dominant, repeating story for 1,000 years has been one of love and loss centered on the sea. The folk memory is of the sea as both provider and thief, as a lover who leaves and a home that can't be reached. Over generations, that story doesn't just get told. It gets baked into the very identity of the people and the perceived personality of the place. The Selkie is the crystallization of that folk memory. She is the shape the coastline's story has taken. When someone with a sensitivity to such things, or simply someone carrying a parallel personal sorrow, visits that place, they might not see a ghost, but they might feel the story. And the human mind, desperate to make sense of profound, wordless feeling, provides the image folklore has prepared for it: the dark eyes, the silvery skin, the unbearable longing. The sighting is less about optics and more about resonance, a soul recognizing its own mythic reflection in the spirit of a place. So, are Selkies real? From a paranormal perspective, the answer might be more profound than a simple yes or no. They could be real as nature spirits, as psychic echoes, or as living folk memories manifesting through the thin places where our world and the world of story bleed together. Their reality may not be one you can capture in a photograph, but it is one you can feel in your bones on a misty beach, a reality measured not in evidence, but in the timeless, haunting recognition of a sorrow and a beauty that belongs to the land, the sea, and the human heart that stands forever between them. That feeling of resonance on a lonely shore is an invitation. If the Selkie's story has echoed within you, it may be a call not just to listen, but to engage in a respectful, inner dialogue with this powerful archetype. This is about personal gnosis, a direct, intuitive knowing gained through spiritual practice, not about cultural appropriation or pretending to be something you are not. It is about connecting with the energy of the Selkie as a guide to your own depths. One of the most profound ways to do this is through a journeying meditation, a focused inner vision quest to the shores of your own psyche. Begin by finding a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take several deep breaths, allowing the noise of the day to fade. In your mind's eye, see yourself walking down a path. It might be a cliffside trail, a wooded track, or a simple sandy lane. With each step, feel yourself moving away from the busyness of ordinary thought and toward a place of quiet mystery. You hear the distant sound of waves. The air grows cool and carries the scent of salt and damp stone. Soon, you step out onto a beach. This is your inner shore, a place that exists just for you. The light is soft, perhaps twilight or early dawn. The sea before you is vast, its surface moving with a slow, powerful rhythm. Sit on a rock or the sand and simply be present. State your intention quietly from the heart. You might say, I come in peace, seeking wisdom. I wish to understand the nature of my own hidden skin. Then you wait. You watch the water. Do not force an image. Let it arise. Perhaps you will see a seal's dark head break the surface some distance out. Perhaps a figure will emerge from the mist near the water's edge. If a Selkie presence makes itself known to you, approach with respect, not demand. In this inner realm, communication is often wordless, a flow of feeling, image, and knowing. You might ask, without speaking aloud, what does my hidden skin look like? What part of my true self have I felt I needed to conceal? The answer may come as a sudden memory, a symbol like a locked box or a buried treasure, or a wave of emotion that clarifies a long-held pain. You could ask, where is my deepest home? Not a physical location, but the state of being where I feel most authentic, most fluid, most free. The guidance you receive will be personal, a message from your own subconscious using the Selkie's potent symbolism. The lessons this archetype offers are timeless. Fluidity is the first. The Selkie moves effortlessly between two elements. In your life, this translates to emotional and mental flexibility. Can you flow with change, or do you rigidly resist it? Can you allow your feelings to move through you like water, or do you dam them up? The Selkie teaches that true strength is not an unmoving stone, but an adaptable grace. Emotional depth is the second lesson. The Selkie does not live on the surface. Her home is the profound deep. She invites you to dive below the shallow waves of daily distraction and polite conversation, to explore the rich, dark, teeming world of your own inner ocean. What treasures and truths lie in your emotional depths that you have been afraid to examine? Finally, she teaches the sacred necessity of retreat. A seal cannot live forever on the rocks, exposed. It must return to the water to rest, to feed, to be restored. Your psyche has the same need. The Selkie's retreat to the sea is not an escape from responsibility, but a vital act of self-preservation and healing. When the world feels too harsh, too bright, too demanding, you have the right to slip beneath your own surface. This might look like taking a day for quiet reflection, saying no to a draining obligation, or simply allowing yourself to feel your feelings without immediately having to fix them. It is in those submerged, quiet spaces that your soul sheds the dryness of the world and remembers its own essential, fluid nature. This practice is not about becoming a mythical creature, but about integrating the Selkie's wisdom into your human experience. It is about learning to wear your human life with a little more grace, because you know that beneath it, you have a skin of wild, intuitive knowing. You can visit that inner shore whenever you need to remember who you are, before the world told you who to be. Her return to the sea is not just a personal liberation, but a restoration of a sacred balance. The Selkie myth, born from a people who lived and died by the ocean's whim, is one of humanity's oldest environmental allegories. To harm the seal was to risk a curse, because the seal was not merely an animal. It was kin to the Selkie, a guardian of the deep's mysteries. This folklore encoded a simple, vital truth. The health of the sea and the fate of its creatures are inextricably linked to our own. The ocean was not a resource to be plundered without consequence, but a living, sentient entity with a memory and a will. The Selkie, in her sorrow, became the voice of that entity. Her captivity in a human home mirrors our modern relationship with the seas, a relationship defined by taking and trapping. We have not stolen a single skin, but we have taken the ocean's abundance as if it were infinite, filling its waters with our waste and its creatures with our plastic. We have attempted to domesticate the wild, vast sea, treating it as a pantry, a highway, and a dumping ground, believing we could hide the consequences just as the fishermen hid the pelt under the floorboards. The Selkie's melancholy stare out the cottage window is now the ocean's own. It is the dead zone where nothing can live, the coral reef bleached bone white, the sea turtle entangled in a ghost net. Her longing for the deep is the ocean's longing for its own lost vitality, for a time before the noise, the acidification, the warming currents. In this light, the myth transforms into a stark prophecy. The Selkie's spirit grows sick because the sea is sick. When the ocean is polluted, overfished, and disrupted, the Selkie's song becomes a dirge. Her inability to thrive on land is a warning. If we continue to hold the ocean captive to our greed, we will not be left with a beautiful, sorrowful wife, but with a dead and silent world. Her survival is symbolic of the ecosystem's survival. The seals, whales, dolphins, and every creature of the deep are the Selkie's kin, and their decline is the fading of her magic from the world. The curse that folklore promised for harming a seal was not superstition, but an intuitive understanding of interconnectedness. Break one thread in the web, and the whole tapestry begins to unravel. Our modern curse is not a supernatural retribution upon a single family, but a global crisis of our own making, rising sea levels, collapsing fisheries, and storms of unprecedented fury. The ocean is reminding us, in the only language it has left, that it cannot be owned. So what does restoration look like in this allegory? It is the moment we return the skin. It is the global act of giving back what we have taken, of cleaning the waters, of protecting the nurseries, of listening to the science that tells us the limits of taking. It is acknowledging that the ocean is not ours to control, but ours to steward. The Selkie does not destroy the fisherman's cottage when she leaves. She simply returns to her element, allowing him to live in a world where the sea is healthy and whole. Our future depends on us finding that hidden skin of respect and reverence we buried so long ago. It is still there, waiting in the collective memory of our species, in the awe we feel when we stand before the crashing waves. To find it and return it is not an act of sacrifice, but the only path to ensuring that the Selkie's song, the ocean's song, does not fall silent forever. That profound sorrow, translated into sound and color, becomes a bridge across centuries. The Selkie's lament did not end with the last peat fire in a crofter's cottage. It found a new voice in the hands of musicians and a new shape on the canvases of painters. When the Scottish Gaelic singer Julie Fowlis gives voice to a traditional Selkie ballad, her phrasing is not a performance, it is a channeling. The melody is ancient, winding like a path down to the sea, and her voice carries the full weight of the story, the ache of separation, the whisper of the waves in every syllable. You do not need to understand the Gaelic words to feel the story in your bones. The music itself is the language of longing. Contemporary folk bands, from Ireland to Nova Scotia, return to this myth again and again, setting new poems to old airs or composing entirely new soundscapes that capture the duality of the Selkie's nature. The arrangements often mirror the myth, a foundation of solid, earthy guitar or fiddle representing the land, over which flows a haunting, wordless vocal line or the ethereal strain of a whistle, the ever-present call of the sea. To listen is to be transported to that misty shoreline, to stand beside the captive soul and feel the pull of the tide within yourself. This is how folklore breathes in the modern age, not as a museum piece, but as a living, emotional current that artists tap into to express universal feelings of love, loss, and displacement that our contemporary language sometimes fails to capture. Visual artists, too, have been forever drawn to the Selkie's poignant imagery. In painting and illustration, she is almost never shown in a moment of joy. The most powerful depictions capture her in a state of transition or contemplation. You might see her halfway through shedding her skin, the human form emerging like a dream from the sleek, dark pelt, a literal visualization of becoming. More often, she is depicted already in human form, seated on a rock, her back to the viewer, gazing across a limitless, gray sea. Her posture is everything, curved in on itself with a sorrow that is both graceful and devastating. The palette is typically cool, blues, grays, muted greens, the colors of a North Atlantic twilight. Even when the scene is the domestic interior, the focus is on her isolation, a single shaft of moonlight finding her as she stands by a small window, the vast, dark ocean framed within it. These artists are not just illustrating a story, they are capturing an emotional state, the very essence of melancholy beauty. They understand that the Selkie's power lies in her silent yearning, and they use light, shadow, and composition to make that feeling visible, something you can almost touch. This ongoing artistic conversation is vital, for it proves the myth is not a closed book. Each songwriter who writes a new Selkie lament, each painter who reinterprets her form, is engaging in an act of collective dreaming. They are taking the timeless archetype, the seal person shaped by centuries of storm and story, and projecting onto it the understandings and emotions of their own time. A modern Selkie song might subtly address climate grief, her sickened sea reflecting our own anxieties. A contemporary painting might frame her captivity in a more abstract, urban setting, speaking to the soul's entrapment in a digital, disconnected world. Art keeps the symbol fluid, allowing it to mean new things to new generations while preserving its ancient, aching heart. The Selkie, in essence, becomes a mirror held up by artists, and when we look into it, we do not see a monster or a fairy, we see the reflection of our own deepest longing for authenticity, for home, for a self that feels whole and free. Her continued presence in our art is a testament to the fact that her story is, in many ways, our story, retold in minor key, waiting for us to find the courage to answer its call. The artist's brush and the singer's lament have kept the Selkie alive, but her true home is not on a canvas or in a song. It is in the silent recognition that stirs within you when you hear her story. We began with a simple folk tale, a silvery skin on a beach, and have traveled a profound distance together. We unmasked the Selkie as a symbol of the wild self, a guardian of ecological balance, a voice of the suppressed feminine, and a mirror for our own deepest sorrows and longings. This journey reveals that the legend was never about magical seals. It is a masterclass in esoteric symbolism, a map drawn in salt and sorrow, leading directly back to the most hidden parts of your own spirit. That abandoned skin on the rocks is every dream you deferred for practicality. The captive wife's gaze out the window is the quiet ache you feel in a life that looks perfect but does not feel true. The relentless call of the sea is the whisper of your own authentic nature, a voice that cannot be silenced, only ignored. The Selkie's entire existence teaches one immutable truth: we are all creatures of two worlds. We navigate the solid land of daily responsibility, of schedules and expectations, while a part of us remembers the fluid, boundless freedom of the deep. Our modern captivity is not in a fisherman's cottage, but in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are supposed to be. The magic of this legend, and of all true esoteric wisdom, lies precisely in those boundary places. It thrives in the tension between sea and shore, human and animal, captivity and freedom. It is in the liminal space where one thing becomes another, where transformation is possible. That is where you find your power, not in choosing one side over the other, but in learning to stand at the threshold, honoring both the rock beneath your feet and the vast ocean of your soul. To reclaim your hidden skin is not an act of rebellion, but an act of remembrance. It is the courage to acknowledge the parts of you that feel too wild, too sensitive, too much, and to welcome them home. It is understanding that your melancholy might not be a flaw, but a signpost, pointing toward a wholeness you have forgotten. The Selkie's return to the sea is not an escape from the human world, but a restoration of a sacred dialogue between your inner depths and your outer life. Thank you for joining this unmasking of Scotland's seal people. Their story is a gift passed down through cold centuries, a lantern held against the mist, reminding us that we are never truly lost, only waiting to remember where we left our skin. If the sea calls to you, if this legend has stirred something in your own depths, we would be honored to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you wish to journey further into these hidden worlds, please subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries that shape us. Until next time, may you find the courage to listen for your own song in the